He used a name no one's called me in 15 years. I shouldn't be recording this. I know that. My hands are still shaking, and every instinct I have is telling me to pretend tonight never happened. But if I don't say it out loud now, while the sound of that knock is still echoing in my head, I'm afraid it'll start changing. That's how these things work. You let them sit in silence, and they rewrite themselves. It's late, the kind of late where the house feels hollow, and every sound carries too far. I was half asleep on a couch when someone knocked on my door. Not pounding, not urgent, just slow, patient knocks, like whoever was out there knew I'd answer eventually. I almost didn't. Some of you warned me about this exact thing. You said never open the door at night, never answer voices that know your name, never assume the past stays buried. Then I heard him speak. He didn't say my full name. He didn't even say it the way most people do. He used the old one, the nickname from high school, the one that died with him. I felt my stomach drop because no one else was ever allowed to call me that. It wasn't written anywhere. It wasn't online. It belonged to one person, and that person shouldn't have been standing on my porch. This isn't the first time someone like him has come back. I need you to understand that before we go any further. I've read the messages. I've seen the comments disappear. I ignored the pattern because it felt safer to believe these stories were just stories. Tonight proved how thin that excuse really is. The knock came again, louder this time, closer somehow, even though I hadn't moved. Each sound dragged me backward, away from my door and into memories I thought I'd locked away for good. Before I tell you what I saw when I opened it, you need to know who he was to me, and why hearing that name was enough to make my hand reach for the handle anyway. People think recognition is harmless. They think remembering someone can't hurt you. They're wrong. Names are doors. Memories are invitations. Once you respond, something answers back. The rain started tapping against the windows then, slow and deliberate, like it was counting with an ox, reminding me this night wasn't finished yet. And somewhere outside, a voice quietly waited for me to remember it again tonight. Nothing about the night felt special at first. That's the part that still bothers me the most. I was stretched out on the couch, half watching some rerun I'd already seen, half scrolling through my phone without really reading anything. The TV murmured to itself, familiar voices filling the room just enough to keep the silence away. Outside, rain slid down the windows in thin, uneven lines, steady but gentle, the kind of sound people use to fall asleep. I remember thinking how quiet adulthood gets. Not peaceful, just empty. Friends drift away slowly, without arguments or goodbyes, until years pass, and you can't remember the last time you spoke to someone who once knew everything about you. The house felt warm, safe, sealed off from the rest of the world. I had the lights on low, the door locked, the same routine I'd followed 100 nights before. That's why the knock didn't scare me at first. It wasn't loud. It wasn't desperate. 3 soft taps, evenly spaced, almost polite. The kind of knock you'd expect from a neighbor who didn't want to be a bother. I muted the TV and listened, more annoyed than afraid, wondering who would come by this late without texting first. The rain masked everything else, turning the outside into a blur of sound and shadow. The second knock came a few seconds later, identical to the first. Patient, confident. I remember thinking how strange it was that my dog didn't react, that my phone hadn't buzzed with a message explaining the interruption. If I'd looked through the peephole longer, really focused instead of glancing, maybe I would have noticed what was wrong sooner. I stood there, hand resting on the doorframe, feeling that subtle shift when comfort thins out. The warmth behind me suddenly felt fragile, like it only existed as long as I didn't acknowledge what was waiting outside. Rain tapped harder against the glass, the sound sharper now, almost intentional. Then the voice spoke. It came through the door clearly, close enough that I could picture him standing there, head tilted the way he always used to. He said my name softly at first, testing it, then corrected himself. Used the nickname, the old one, the one I hadn't heard since we were young and stupid and thought nothing bad could follow us home. That was when the night stopped being ordinary. That was when the routine broke, and the memories I'd buried started pressing back, desperate to be recognized again. We met when we were kids, the kind of friends people assume will last forever. Same street, same school, same shortcuts home. He was the loud one. I was the careful one. Somewhere in between, we balanced each other out. He gave me the nickname on a dare, after I tripped during a stupid race and tried to pretend I meant to fall. It stuck because he made it stick. No one else ever used it without feeling wrong. We spent whole summers killing time, sitting on curbs at midnight, daring each other to knock on doors and run, trading secrets we swore would never leave us. I can still hear his voice in my head, laughing when I hesitated. "Relax," he'd say. "Nothing bad ever really happens." I believed him back then, because believing felt easier than thinking too hard. Things changed as we got older. They always do. The jokes got darker. The dares went further. There was a night everyone avoids talking about now. The one people lower their voices over. I won't pretend we were innocent. We weren't. We crossed a line because he said it would be fine, because he always said that, and because I didn't stop him when I should have. After that, the phone calls slowed. Messages went unanswered. When we did talk, it felt forced, like we were both pretending nothing had shifted. Then the rumors started. People said he'd gotten mixed up in something. People said he'd left town. People said worse things. The kind you don't repeat unless you want them sticking to you. Some of you already know this pattern. You've heard versions of it before. A friend fades out, then vanishes entirely. Officially, he disappeared. Unofficially, most people believed he was dead. There was no funeral, no closure, just a quiet absence that settled in and stayed there. I told myself that was the end of it, that whatever happened back then stayed buried with him. Life moved on. I moved on. Years passed without that nickname crossing my ears, without his laugh popping up in my memory, unless I let it. That's why hearing it tonight felt like someone tearing open a scar I'd stopped checking. It wasn't nostalgia knocking on my door. It was consequence. There were rumors about what really happened to him, and I'd worked hard not to listen to them. The knock came again, sharper this time, closer than before. It sounded like it was already inside the house somehow. I realized then that the past doesn't stay quiet just because you ignore it. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it learns patience. And sometimes it comes back sounding exactly like someone you once trusted, asking to be let in again. He smelled like rain, even though it hadn't started yet. I opened the door before I could talk myself out of it. The porch light flickered on, revealing him exactly where I expected, like he'd been standing there the whole time, waiting for the courage he knew I'd eventually find. At first glance, everything looked right. Same height, same slouch, same familiar jacket he used to steal from his brother. My brain rushed to fill in the gaps, desperate to make him real. Up close, the details didn't cooperate. His eyes were open too wide, unblinking, reflecting the light without softening. Rain clung to his hair and shoulders, beating on the fabric, dripping steadily onto the porch boards. The smell hit me then, wet pavement, cold air, the sharp metallic scent of a storm that hadn't arrived yet. I told myself it was just memory playing tricks on me. "Hey," he said, smiling a second too late. "Took you long enough." My mouth moved, but nothing came out. He watched me carefully, like he was waiting for cues. When I shifted my weight, he mirrored it. When I swallowed, he did too, just a heartbeat behind. It was like talking to someone through bad reception. "You look tired," he added, voice almost right. "Guess life did that, huh?" I nodded, because nodding felt safer than speaking. He knew things he shouldn't have. Asked about my job, mentioned a scar I never showed anyone, laughed at a joke we'd never actually told. Each word landed wrong, not enough to scream, just enough to itch. I noticed then that he hadn't stepped forward. One foot rested on the porch, the other just beyond the threshold, hovering like an afterthought. He leaned in, but didn't enter, didn't even try. The space between us felt deliberate, measured. "You gonna invite me in?" he asked softly. That was the moment everything clicked. He wasn't hesitating. He was waiting, waiting for permission, waiting for me to say the words that would make this real, irreversible. The rain began tapping harder around us, impatient now, and somewhere deep in my chest, something warned me that once I answered him, the night would finish what it had started. I stood there frozen, the warmth of the house leaking out past my legs, meeting the cold he carried with him. My hand gripped the edge of the door, knuckles whitening, while his smile stayed fixed, patient, rehearsed. He tilted his head, listening to something I couldn't hear, and for a second his reflection in the dark window lagged behind him. I understood then that this moment mattered more than the past ever did, and that whatever he was, it needed my voice to cross over. The question hung between us, heavy and unfinished, waiting for me to make the mistake he'd practiced asking for all night without breaking eye contact. Rules only exist after you break them. That's something I've learned the hard way. And judging by the messages some of you keep sending me, I'm not the only one. There are patterns to these encounters. Not laws, not protections, just rules you notice too late, written in hindsight and panic. Don't invite them inside. Don't correct them when they get details wrong. Don't ask where they've been, no matter how badly you want answers. And above all, don't acknowledge the gaps, those moments when their face lags, or their voice arrives half a second late. The moment you point it out, you confirm that you see them, that you accept them. I used to think these rules were superstition, stitched together by people desperate to make sense of trauma. But I've read enough accounts now, deleted posts, archived threads, comments that vanish mid-conversation, to know better. The same mistakes repeat, different doors, same outcome. Some of you warned me. You said doors at night are thresholds, not entryways. You said names have weight. You said once they ask, it's already too late. I told myself I was smarter than that. I told myself this was just grief wearing a familiar face. The truth is, I broke a rule the second I opened the door. Not the obvious one, the other one. The one no one talks about until it's too late to matter. I hesitated. I didn't say no. I didn't say anything at all. Behind me, the house sighed, warm and inviting. In front of me, he smiled wider, like he'd heard my silence clearly enough. And then, without waiting for permission, he stepped forward, and the space between us disappeared. That was the moment every rule failed. Every warning became useless, and the night finally crossed my threshold forever inward. Once he was inside, the house felt wrong, like someone had rearranged the furniture without moving anything. He stood too close, then corrected himself a second later, stepping back as if rewinding. His smile lingered after the muscles relaxed, a ghost of an expression that didn't know when to stop. He started copying me, not obviously at first. When I rubbed my hand together, he did it too, just a beat behind. When I leaned against the counter, he mirrored it, but his elbow landed an inch too low, scraping wood. He laughed when I laughed, except the sound came out flattened, like it had passed through something narrow before reaching the air. "Still drink it black," he said, nodding at my coffee mug. "I don't drink coffee at night," I replied. "Oh," he said. Then, half a second later, "You never did." He repeated phrases I hadn't finished saying. Sometimes he finished them wrong. I'd say, "It's been a long," and he'd cut in with, "Drive home," even though I was going to say day. Each mistake felt like a finger pressing into my skull, gentle but deliberate. His eyes never blinked. They shifted, tracked, focused, but the lid stayed open, glossy and wet. When I looked away and back again, they were still open, still watching, as if he hadn't needed the break. I started noticing seams. His jacket was damp, but the water didn't drip. It just vanished, soaking into nothing. When he moved, there was a faint delay, like the world had to catch up with him. The air around his shoulders warped, barely, the way heat bends light. "Man," he said, tilting his head, copying my posture perfectly this time. "You've changed." I nodded, because correcting him felt dangerous. Every instinct told me not to give him feedback, not to help, but he was learning anyway. Each minute, he got smoother. The pauses shortened. The echoes disappeared. It was like watching a bad recording improve itself in real time. He reached for a photo frame on the shelf, then stopped, hand hovering. "Do you still?" His voice glitched, the words stretching. "Hate mirrors." I hadn't told him that. Not ever. My stomach dropped. That secret belonged to a summer we never talked about again. a thing buried so deep I'd convinced myself it was gone. I met his eyes, and for the first time, he blinked. Slowly, carefully, he smiled. "Remember what we promised not to tell anyone?" he asked, softly, perfectly. And in that moment, I knew whatever was wearing his face wasn't guessing anymore. It had found the part of me I thought was unreachable, and it was ready to use it. I felt smaller under his gaze, like a file being compressed, details shaved off without permission. My own movements began to hesitate, uncertain which version of me he was memorizing. When I swallowed, he swallowed. When my pulse jumped, his throat fluttered in response. "Relax," he said, using my voice. Not similar, mine. The same tired cadence, the same barely hidden sarcasm. I realized then that he wasn't wearing my friend like a mask. He was editing him, trimming away what didn't fit, rewriting the rest. The worst part was how familiar it felt, like muscle memory turning against me, like something that had practiced this moment long before it arrived. He watched my reactions with quiet satisfaction, cataloging fear, timing breaths, learning where hesitation lived. Whatever rules I thought I understood were dissolving, and he knew exactly how much longer I could pretend not to notice before it finished completely. The secret wasn't dramatic when it happened. That's what makes it rot. We were 16, bored, cruel in the way boys get when they're afraid of being small. There was a third kid with us that night, Evan Miller, quiet, always apologizing for taking up space. He followed us everywhere because attention felt like oxygen to him, and we let him believe he belonged. We dared him down to the quarry after midnight, told him there was an echo cave, a place where your voice came back different. That part was a lie. The water was high from rain, black and restless, swallowing the moon. I remember laughing when Evan hesitated. I remember my friend using that nickname, the one he used on me earlier tonight, and saying, "Don't be like that. We've got you." Evan slipped, or maybe he was pushed. I still don't know which version is worse. There was a sound like a dropped backpack, then nothing. No splash, just the quarry accepting him. We waited, breathless, for him to resurface, to cough, to yell. He didn't. The water stayed smooth, patient. We ran. Of course we ran. We told ourselves he climbed out somewhere else, that he went home, that he was embarrassed. By morning, the police were everywhere. By evening, his parents were on the news. By the end of the week, there were candles and posters, and a question no one could answer. We never spoke about it again. Not really. We drifted apart instead, like guilt needs distance to breathe. Years later, the rumor said my friend confessed drunk and disappeared. Another said he drowned himself in the same quarry. Officially, there was nothing. Just an empty space where a boy used to be. Standing in my kitchen, the thing wearing his face leaned closer. "Evan hated the water," it said gently. "You remember how he shook?" My mouth went dry. I hadn't told anyone that part. Not the shaking. Not the way he grabbed my sleeve. Not the way I looked away. "That's why I came back," it continued, voice warm, conspiratorial. "You kept me. You kept it." I understood then that this wasn't about my friend. It was about the weight we buried and pretended wasn't still pressing upward. About how secrets don't disappear, they wait. If you're listening to this, you know the kind. The ones that feel quiet until the lights flicker, and something finally comes to collect. His eyes reflected the kitchen light like deep water, and I felt 16 again, cornered by my own silence. The air hummed. The refrigerator clicked off. Somewhere outside, rain found rhythm. I wanted to confess, to name what we did and undo it, but the thing smiled as if confession was the point. It fed on acknowledgement. It wanted me to say Evan's name out loud, to invite the memory fully in. When I hesitated, the bulbs above us stuttered, dimming, brightening, patient as a held breath. That's when the house answered for me. A low electrical sigh crawling through walls, promising consequences for every silence I'd practiced surviving since that night. I did what I always do when fear gets too close. I joked. It came out thin and sharp, like tapping glass. "Guess this is why people say don't answer the door," I said, forcing a laugh that sounded like someone else's problem. He stared for a second, Then he laughed. It wasn't right. The timing lagged, like bad audio sync, and the sound itself fractured, one laugh stacked on top of another. Then another. Too many echoes for one throat. He kept going after I stopped, shoulders shaking with enthusiasm instead of humor. "Good one," he said, finally, wiping at dry eyes. A beat passed. "Good one," he repeated. My smile locked in place. Jokes are supposed to release pressure, but the air only thickened. Even the house seemed to recoil. The lights steadied, then dimmed, as if embarrassed on my behalf. I tried again, weaker. "Man, you always did laugh at the wrong parts." That should have landed. It used to. Instead, his head tilted, searching my face for instruction. Then he laughed again, louder, longer, restarting whenever the silence crept back. It felt rehearsed, like a button he'd learned to press. I realized humor was a language, and I'd just taught him a word without meaning. Whatever was inside him didn't understand relief, only response. Every attempt to soften the moment gave him more material, more timing, more me. The laughter stopped all at once. He stood up without warning. The chair scraped softly, a deliberate sound, and I understood the joke was officially over for both of us. It stopped pretending after that. The warmth drained from its face, leaving something neutral, patient. "I didn't come to see you," it said, not accusing, informative. I asked what it wanted, because asking felt safer than guessing. It smiled anyway. "Continuation," it said. "Memory doesn't like gaps." It explained without explaining. The way rules are taught when you're already breaking them. When someone vanishes, something rushes to fill the outline they leave behind. Names help. Stories help more. An open door is best. "You keep us alive," it said gently, tapping its temple. By remembering, I thought of missing posters, dead forums, comment threads that ended mid-sentence. I thought of my friend, how he'd thinned out of my life until only a shape remained. "This has happened before," it added, almost kindly. "You've heard us. That's why you're calm." It needed permission, not to enter. I'd already failed there, but to stay accurate, to replace cleanly. It gestured around my kitchen. "Someone here is already fading," it said. "We can help." The horror wasn't that it lied. It was that it didn't have to. I realized how many details I corrected for it. How many memories I'd offered trying to feel safe. Each nod, each silence, a stitch. "Who?" I asked, and hated myself for asking. It leaned closer, voice dropping. "Whoever you stop protecting." The lights flickered hard. Somewhere behind me, a door inside the house knocked once. Polite, expectant. The sound came again, closer, from the hallway that led to rooms I hadn't checked tonight. It turned toward it, pleased. "See," it said. "They're ready." I understood then. It wasn't here to take my place. It was here to practice. To continue a pattern older than any one guilt. It would leave wearing something else, somewhere else, carrying just enough truth to pass. The knock inside the house repeated, firmer now, asking to be remembered. I backed away, counting breaths, wondering which memories were mine alone. The thing watched without blinking, proud of the efficiency. It said names softly, testing which ones pulled hardest. Each name tightened the room. Another knock answered from the bedroom, then the bathroom, as if the house itself was rehearsing. I realized replacement didn't mean copying a body. It meant inheriting attention. Whoever answered last became the story everyone remembered. "This is consent," it said, gesturing to the noise. "Acknowledgement is enough." I thought of you listening, of how knowing changes the shape of nights. If you hear the knock after this, don't respond. Forgive me if you can. The final knock came from the front door again. Only now it was coming from behind me. My heart hammered as the room held its breath. The rule was simple and cruel. Whoever answered became useful. Silence starved it. I stood still, letting fear pass like weather, refusing to look back. The knock stopped. Somewhere, something chose another door. I kept breathing, unsure which absence I'd earned. The rain outside resumed, pretending nothing changed. I know better. If this goes quiet for you, remember the gap is the danger. Don't fill it. That's how it survives. And why doors learn your name. Listen carefully now. I'm not opening anything again. Neither should you. End this recording. Please. The knock is learning patience. It always does. Eventually. Always. I thought choices were supposed to feel like doors. This felt like a trapdoor, already open. It told me I could keep the house intact if I let it stay. Quiet and useful, folded into routines. Or I could make it leave carrying something else. A replacement light enough to travel. Nothing dies, it said. It just changes hands. I asked what it would take. It gestured at the walls, the photos, the hallway where Knox had learned my floor plan. A name, it said. Consistency. I thought of Evan. I thought of my friend. I thought of you listening. The cruel part was how reasonable it sounded. Stay meant no more knocks, no more practice. Leave meant relief purchased with subtraction. Someone else's empty chair. Another forum going silent. You already choose every day. It added, patient as rain. Who you remember, who you let blur. The house waited. The lights steadied. My heart tried to make a case for mercy, then for cowardice. I asked if there was a third option. It smiled with my mouth. That's the lie people tell themselves to sleep. I stood in the doorway between kitchen and hall, hands shaking. The air tasted like metal. I realized the choice wasn't about saving anyone. It was about authorship. Whoever decided would own the story that followed. I chose the option that felt smaller, the one that promised quiet. I said yes to staying. I told myself containment was care. I told myself rules mattered. The relief was immediate and wrong. The house exhaled. The knocks ceased. The thing softened, already filing itself into my days, rehearsing my coffee, my jokes, my silences. What do I lose? I asked, too late. It considered, then shrugged. Only what you won't notice at first. That night, I slept without dreams. In the morning, a frame on the shelf held a photo I didn't recognize, edges worn as if it had always been there. A toothbrush waited in the sink I never bought. Messages on my phone ended mid-thread. The name's familiar, the face is not. I knew then I'd chosen wrong, because wrong felt efficient, because quiet is seductive, because something that stays doesn't need to hurry. If you're weighing this now, don't. The choice isn't meant to be fair. It's meant to be made. And once it is, the house learns you. So does the thing that keeps your place warm. It's listening. It always was. I tell myself I can reverse it later, with vigilance and silence. That's another lie. The price compounds quietly. By the time you notice what's missing, the ledger feels balanced. It never is. It just waits for acknowledgement from someone else. Morning came like an apology that didn't mean it. Sunlight spilled through the blinds, generous and ordinary, turning last night into a bad idea instead of a warning. I stood at the sink, watching steam rise, telling myself daylight fixes things, because it always has. The house looked correct, too correct. No shadows clung to corners. The air smelled like soap and coffee, not rain. I checked the locks and found them fastened, each one where it should be, as if nothing had tested them. Then the edits showed themselves. Subtle, polite. A photo on the fridge showed 3 of us at a barbecue I remember hosting, except I can only name 2 faces. My phone buzzed with a message that replied to a joke I don't recall making. In my contacts, a number set starred, familiar as muscle memory, blank as a fogged mirror. I tried to remember what I'd lost and felt my thoughts slide off, like fingers on wet glass. The harder I pushed, the smoother it got. That's the trick. Absence wears camouflage in daylight. Some of you have noticed this before. You've told me about playlists with 1 extra song, about emails signed with names that ring true but land wrong. You thought it was age, stress, algorithms. You're not wrong. You're just incomplete. I stepped outside. The street hummed. Neighbors waved. The sky behaved. Relief pretended to be proof. Inside my chest, something practiced breathing with me, matching rhythm, learning how morning works. If you're listening right now and thinking this feels familiar, stop scrolling. Sit with it. Don't chase the missing piece. Attention feeds replacements. Silence starves them. I'm talking to you now because daylight makes liars of us. It says everything survived. It It says nothing followed you home. That's when it listens. Listen to me. Not tomorrow, not after the comments, now. If someone from your past knocks tonight, it won't be coincidence, and it won't be kindness. Recognition is a key, and keys turn both ways. I've watched threads go quiet after people said, "This happened to me too." Accounts deleted. Replies left hanging. It's not punishment. It's continuity. When you acknowledge them, you help them stay accurate. They will look right. Sound almost right. They'll remember things you forgot on purpose. Old jokes. Old hurts. An old name you haven't answered to in years. That's the test. Familiarity makes us generous. Generosity makes us useful. Do not correct them. Do not invite them. Do not ask questions you want answers to. Don't even argue with yourself in the hallway. Silence isn't rude, it's armor. If you already slipped, if you felt that click in your chest when recognition landed, close the distance you created. Turn off the lights. Let memory blur. Forgive me if you have to. Forget this recording. Gaps are safer than clarity. You'll want proof in the morning. Photos, messages, something to point at and say, "See." Proof feeds replacements. Let daylight lie to you. I'm ending this because endings starve them. If you hear a knock after this, breathe and do nothing. Let it wait. Let it learn patience somewhere else. Share nothing. Save no drafts. And don't linger in doorways tonight. One last thing, and it matters. If they use your old name, don't open.